Good afternoon and welcome to another Micrographics webinar. My name is Carlton Roy and I'll be the presenter today. I'm an application engineer with Micrographics. Today I will be presenting a webinar entitled Managing Data Between Inventor and Fusion 360. Please note that this session will be recorded and all participants are muted. You can take advantage of the chat panel to ask any questions, and I'll answer these either as I see them or at the end during the Q&A session. Let's have a look at the agenda for today. We'll start off with a short intro into why would you want to use Fusion files in Inventor or Inventor files in Fusion. This will be followed up by a quick look at Fusion Teams Hub and projects, and how we manage users within a Team Hub, as well as managing access to projects. We will then continue with a look at how to get Fusion 360 files into Inventor, and then a look at opening Inventor files in Fusion 360. We'll close off with a short summary of the topics covered, and then a Q&A session. Moving to our intro, I'll first ask the question, why use both? Why use Inventor and Fusion? This question may have crossed your mind, or at least, should I use Fusion 360 or Inventor? Today we'll look at why you should use both, and hopefully your mindset will shift to seeing Inventor and Fusion as companion products designed to work together. Now, one scenario you may have is the need to use an external design contractor, but they only have or can only afford a license of Fusion 360. This is also rather common when needing to share designs with an external machine shop that's using Fusion 360's CAM workspace for their CNC programming. We find that many small business contractors or machine shops prefer to use Fusion 360 due to its functionality and its price point. Where larger corporations that may need to outsource to these smaller companies use Inventor due to the scale and type of design work they need to do. The smaller companies can save on costs by using Fusion 360, but still being able to open and use the designs created in Inventor and vice versa. You may notice I also have management and marketing as part of the image to the right of the presentation here. And later on, I'll have a short discussion on how the way we share data can also benefit these departments. But what if you don't need the use of an external design contractor or a machine shop? Well, you can still leverage the best of both worlds by using Inventor and Fusion 360 hand in hand and take advantage of their respective strong points. You can design your complex and large machines in Inventor using the vast array of tools such as the design accelerators, like the frame generator, and various other component generators for chain drives and shafts, to only name a few. Use states to control design complexity and reduce assembly details like nuts, bolts, and other small parts, enabling the ability to handle larger assemblies. Leverage Inventor's bill of materials and comprehensive detailing environment to create product drawings for manufacturing. But you can use Fusion 360 to run cloud-based simulations on your components or generative designs to create better ones, and make use of the CAM workspace to machine your parts. Personally, I prefer the ease at which Fusion 360 can render out images for the training of or marketing purposes. As a bonus, if one designer is using both packages, they are getting more value out of their product design and manufacturing collection license, making use of the tools already included in that license entitlement. So if we have a quick look at the slide here, we'll see a couple of different areas in which the software can be used. We have the large assembly for Inventor, and then Fusion can do the generative design, rendering, simulation, machining, as well as other small part designs. So now that we have a use case, we need a platform or workflow that will achieve this use case of being able to use both programs in the design. This is where Fusion Team Hub comes in. Fusion Team Hub is a cloud-based storage and collaboration platform that is CAD aware. This means that you can trace the relationships between files stored within the hub, view where parts are being used and what parts an assembly is using, view drawings related to part or assembly files. All this data is accessible through your web browser from anywhere. Just use your account to log in. Being cloud-based and easily accessible makes it the perfect tool for sharing data with others. As mentioned, this could be an external parts supplier or design contractor. And as I mentioned earlier, I have management and marketing in the image on the slide. With Fusion Team participant licenses, people in these roles can have access to the same data the designers have. They can add documentation, check on project progress, or even review designs within their web browser without needing a CAD package. Where does this leave Inventor users though? Inventor was never designed to access data directly off the web, the way Fusion 360 does. This is where the Autodesk desktop connector comes in. It's basically a cloud drive that you install on your PC, and this synchronizes the data from your Team Hub into a folder on your hard drive. Inventor can then open files from there. Vault Pro users can take advantage of Vault Project Sync to synchronize folders within Vault and the Team Hub. We have a separate webinar covering this, and I will put links in the description of this video when I post it up on our YouTube channel. We also have a separate webinar on our channel which goes more in depth into how to create and manage Fusion teams. Okay, so we'll go into our demo portion of the sort of Fusion Team Hub section of the webinar, and I'm going to go here into Google Chrome. And what we see here in Google Chrome, if I go ahead and click on the home icon, is our Micrographics mech team. Down the left-hand side, we have our projects for the team. This panel stays there as we browse through our various sections on the right-hand side. So at the moment, we see the projects here on the right-hand side as well. So we can scroll through these projects and find a project. I'm going to look for the Fusion data set and select that project to go into that project. Here we can see information that has been created inside of Fusion, and this is inside of our Fusion project. I would also see that project inside of Autodesk Fusion 360. So there we can see the Fusion data set. Go into that project, and we can see the components here in that project. So your Fusion work is stored in these projects, and you are also able to add other file types to these projects. So this is basically what your Team Hub would look like, and you're also able to switch to various other Team Hubs. So you can actually be a member of multiple Team Hubs. I need to go back to our slides here, and we are going to look at a little bit more in depth into Team Hub as far as users and projects go. So now that we have a better idea of what a Team Hub is, how do we manage the data within the team? And this is done with projects. As I showed in the demo there, we have a list of projects with data in. The idea is very similar to how Inventor works with projects. Each project represents a new design, product, or job. This is done to separate the data as well as access. A project or team admin can add or remove users from projects, giving individuals the right to access, view, and edit data within the project. Project visibility can be set on creation or after the fact. This controls who can see and request access to the project with 3 different visibility options. So we can see the options up here on screen now when creating a project. Open. Everyone can basically see the project exists, but they do not have access to the data, and an individual user or member would have the ability to request access to this project. Once access is requested, the project admin or team admin would then either approve or reject that request. A closed project is a project everyone can see. They'll see that that project exists, but they do not have access to the data unless they are invited to join the project. So that is a project that is invite only. You cannot request to join a closed project. And then lastly, the secret project. This project is not visible to anybody, so you would not see that the project exists, and it will only become visible to members that are invited. So once again, it's an invite-only project. However, it only becomes visible to you once you have been invited. In the next slide, we'll have a brief look at how we add and manage members within the Team Hub. So there are 3 main ways in which members can be added to a team. The first way is through the team admin, inviting a member to join the team. So the administrator would go to their account, they would click the little user icon and select admin, and they would then invite users as required. The second way is for members on the same email domain, for instance at mgfx.co.za, to request access to a team that already exists on the domain. Basically, this means that a user with an email address that ends in @mgfx.co.za has a team linked to their account. So they may have already created a team. It could have been, in my case, our technician in Cape Town or Joburg. He's created a team with his MGFX email address. And I can see that because I have a @mgfx.co.za email address as well, I would be able to see that his team exists. I can then request to join in on that team, and the admin would then either accept or reject that. Then the last way of adding a team member is when an existing project member, so this would be somebody that has access to a project, wants to give you access to the project or someone else access, they would invite that other user to access the project. However, in this case, if this member is not on the team already, the admin will have to first grant them access to the team. And when adding members to a Team Hub, you will use their email address, which is associated to an Autodesk account. So in my case, it would be, if I had to invite somebody, I would have to know what email address they have linked to their Autodesk account, and that is then the email address that would be used in the invite. Here we can see an image on the right-hand side of the slide, members and roles. That would be for the team. This would give you a list of all the team members and what their roles are. We can see here currently this user, CM, is the team administrator and the team owner. You can have multiple team administrators, but only one team owner. And we've got a little invite button there highlighted with the red arrow showing that we can invite users by using their email address to invite. Under the Projects tab, we've got the option to basically manage the roles for the users under that project. Okay, so moving on to managing access to projects. So we looked at the previous slide was adding users to the team, where this slide is now looking at adding users to a specific project. So the process is basically the same for adding members to a project. If the project is an open project, then any team member could request access to the project. If it's closed and secret projects, as mentioned, they can only be accessed when you are invited to join the project from the existing member. The project admin can also adjust each member's roles as required. A member is either a viewer with read-only access, or they are an editor where they have read-write access to the project files. So here we can see on the screen we've got a project which is active. I've just had the name blurred out at the top there. And on the project members tab, there are two project members, myself as the project admin, and we have another user who is an editor. We are going to move over to a demo here where we will have a look at how that is done. So on the left-hand side here, we have a project active Fusion data set, and at the top we've got the project members. We can select there under project members to access the members in this project. Currently I see we have one of our generic email accounts here, fusion1@mgfx. That user, I can change them from being an editor to a viewer, and I can also remove that user from the project. So I'm going to use the little icon here to remove, and you're asked, do you want to remove? So I'm going to remove that member of the project, and I'm going to invite another member to the project. So I'll click invite, and it asks us here email addresses or names of the people you'd like to invite. So if I start typing in Aldred, he's already on the team, so it will pick up his account here. I'll select his user, and on the right-hand side, I'll set the role that he has for this project. So I'll say he's a viewer only. Maybe he only needs to view the project and give feedback on design work. We can then send invitation, and that will email him off an invitation, and he'll receive that letting him know that he has been added to the project. If I was a team admin, which unfortunately I'm not, I could go to the drop down for the teams here, and I would have an admin setting over here to be able to access the admin side of this team to update and make changes to team members as well as project members. So just to recap up to this point before we move on, we've looked at what is the Team Hub. Basically, it's an online cloud platform that allows us to store data in the cloud and make it easily accessible to multiple users. Now, this works very well for Fusion 360 users because Fusion 360 reads off the cloud. It has direct access to the Team Hub, and you're able to open, change, save, close data from within Fusion. But now, what happens when you want to use those Fusion 360 files in Inventor? You want to have an Inventor user access those Fusion 360 files. Step one would be to add that user to a specific project that they need access to, and then that user would then have to have access to that those cloud-based files. So how do we get access to those cloud-based files in Inventor? And this is where the Autodesk Desktop Connector comes in. The Desktop Connector is an application that you will download and install, and it's basically like a cloud drive, pretty much like Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive. It will synchronize the files that are in the team project down onto your local hard drive, and it will keep those files synchronized. With those files on your hard drive, you can then add those files into your Inventor assembly. The one thing that you would need to do from Inventor is to set the workgroup search path for the project in Inventor to include that specific project in the Fusion 360 drive. The one advantage of using the Desktop Connector is that it also manages CAD references, and this is something that I will show in the demo that I'll run. Basically what this means though is that if I upload a part and that part has a drawing, the drawing will come with. If I upload an assembly and that assembly, if I upload the assembly file only, the IAM file, to that drive will actually prompt to ask for a project, basically an Inventor project. What Inventor project is that assembly stored under? And it uses that project and the assembly to find all of the related files. So I have an example where I'll show you an assembly with two simple parts, part A and part B. I'll upload the assembly, and part A and part B will automatically be pulled along with it into that upload, so that all of the data for that assembly is uploaded into that Fusion drive. So once you have set up that drive, you are then able to go into Inventor and use the basically your place into assembly or open file command to open files from that workgroup search path that was created. If you're opening up a Fusion file that was in that drive, you would get the AnyCAD import or reference window that comes up. So we'll see the import window here, where you can choose to reference the Fusion 360 model, and this will keep a live link to the Fusion 360 model, so that if a designer modifies that model in Fusion 360, you will get notified about that change in Inventor, and you'll be able to update that base model from Fusion. You can also choose the convert model option, which will do a straight translation. It breaks any link between the Fusion 360 file and Inventor. So you would be breaking the updates of any of those designs. So converting would just do a straight translation of the file. So we have that reference or basically convert model, which is an import option. So we're going to have a look at this in a demo format. So what I'll do is I'm going to first go to the Fusion 360 Team Hub. I'm looking at the project that I want to have access to in Inventor. And what we'll do is, if you do not have the desktop connector installed, you would go to your username at the top right hand side, or your user icon at the top right hand side, and you'll see there's an option to install desktop connector for Fusion. Now clicking on this will take you to a download link, basically asking you to save the desktop connector x64. You would save this file and then launch that and install the desktop connector. Once installed, if you're not signed into your Autodesk product, you would have to sign into the connector. We'll see here it is in our status bar, the gray Autodesk sign, logo. Right-clicking on that will give you a couple of options. You can sign out, work offline, a couple of other options there to work with. Now that will just sit there and basically synchronize your Fusion 360 drive. So I'm going here back to this PC is a Fusion 360 drive, and accessing that drive will show me the teams that I am part of. We'll go into Micrographics Mech, and that will then list all the projects that I have access to in Micrographics Mech. If I go into Fusion Dataset, I can browse and I can have a look at the files that are inside of that dataset folder. So I now have direct access to those files on a local drive. So as mentioned, there's basically the next step, as I mentioned, would be to go into Inventor. And inside of Inventor, you would set up your project to see that location as a project location. So I'm going to go ahead here to get started, projects, and you'll see I have a project active, and going down to the workgroup search paths, there is a Fusion 360 workgroup path In my case, it's pointing to the Micrographics mech team, but that could be modified and that could point to a specific project as well. This can basically be added by right-clicking on the workgroup search path and choosing the Add Path option. I can't do this currently because I have a part open, but you would add a path, give it a name, browse for that location. So we can see that that location here is part of, essentially deemed part of the project now. So how do we get the Fusion files into Inventor? What I'm going to do here is I am going to basically go to the Open command. I'm going to go here to the Workgroup Search Paths folder, Fusion 360. Go into the Fusion Dataset folder, and I'm going to open up a Fusion 360 file. So I'll change the filter to Fusion files. And I'm going to go down to the Rotary Tool Changer Fusion 360 file. So now the idea here behind opening up this component is that this assembly was designed in Fusion, and there may be some reason to design a component relative to this assembly but use Inventor's functionality to design the component. So as a quick demo here, what I'm going to do is once this part has processed and been brought in, I'll design a simple casing to cover up the rotary tool changer. As we see, we get the options to reference or convert. I'm going to reference because if there are any changes to the Fusion 360 model, I want to see that in Inventor and have that update my design that I create in Inventor. So we'll see it's importing the design, and there we have the Fusion 360 design inside of Inventor. We can see in the browser on the left-hand side, it's showing that this is a cloud file, and we see the name of the cloud file there on the left. And from this point on, it's standard Inventor modeling. So it's brought this in as an assembly. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead here and create a part. And I'm going to call this demo cover 2. Activate that part. I'm going to start a sketch and project geometry from that. So you'll see it is treated as any other imported geometry or even geometry that was created by Inventor. I'll set the diameter of that circle. And so I'm just doing a very simple shroud here to cover these tools while they're rotating. I'm going to go ahead and set a depth of 150. And also going to go ahead and create a cutout here. Basically, this is an automatic tool changer for a CNC router. So we need to have an opening here for the spindle to be able to come in and grab or dock a tool and then grab the next tool. I'm not going to waste time on constraining that. We just want to get the idea here. And last step, to shell this out and remove the faces that are not required. And I'm going to say this is a 2mm thick part. So there we have a very basic cover. Now, obviously, proper sketching techniques and modeling techniques, I would have referenced the tool holder to get the angle and size of the opening here, but for demo purposes, this will be good enough. So we now have a file in Inventor that is referencing a Fusion 360 design. I'm going to return back to the main assembly. And I'm going to go ahead and save this main assembly as tool changer with cover. So the workflow here is that a design was brought in from Fusion as a reference model, and then a new component was designed around that reference model using standard Inventor techniques, sketching, projecting, and extruding. So that can be the workflow to get information from Fusion into Inventor. And from here, we can do our standard output from Inventor to create working drawings and any information going forward to manufacturing. However, it may also be a good idea to bring this design back into Fusion 360 to see if there would be any clashes with any of the other components in Fusion 360. And the next section of our webinar will cover how can we bring Inventor files into Fusion 360. So I'm going to leave this over here and go back into our PowerPoint. And we are going to move over to Inventor files in Fusion 360. So how do we get our Inventor files into Fusion 360? Well, we have two different ways in which this can be done. Three different ways in which this can be done. We can send the files directly from Inventor. So Inventor 2022 has a built-in Send to Fusion 360 button, which will send your design to your Fusion 360 drive. And as I said, your Fusion 360 drive, you do need to have that desktop connector installed to enable this. Basically, all of these workflows require the desktop connector unless you are working through your web browser. So we have three ways. We can send to Fusion 360 from directly inside of Inventor. The second way of doing this would be to upload the files directly to the team project through your web browser. And you can also copy and paste your designs or your files into the Fusion 360 drive, and desktop connector will handle that copy and paste process. So here we see the two options, sent to Fusion 360 and as well as from the online, we have the upload option as well. And then if we look at the files online, we can see here we have the Inventor file. You can see the demo cover.ipt. We have that Inventor file sitting in that Fusion data set. And we can either open this from the web browser using the Open in Desktop button that will open that Inventor file inside of Fusion, or you can go into Fusion and access Fusion's data panel and find the file there in Fusion's data panel. So if I go back to the previous slide, this would be how to get the file into the Team Hub, into the project on the Team Hub. And the next slide here, how to then open that file in Fusion. So we can see this image shows it from the web browser. We can use the Open in Desktop app to open it in Fusion, or the next image here from the Fusion data panel, you can right click on that Inventor part and choose Insert into Current Design. Now, it's nice to explain these things, but it's always better to see them in a demo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically round trip this design. I'm going to take it now from Inventor and put it back into Fusion. Now, one thing to be careful of here is that the rotary tool changer is already in Fusion, so we don't need to send that file to Fusion. So what we'll do is we'll grab just the cover. go to the Environments tab, and we'll select the Send to Fusion 360 option. That will open up a panel on the right-hand side of your screen with a basic introduction. If you don't want to see this every time, you can choose Don't Show Again. Click Continue. This will then scan your teams to give you a list of available teams to upload to. It will then give you the list of projects for that team. I want to go into the Fusion Dataset project, and it will then show you any files that are not Fusion 360 files that have been uploaded to that project. So here we can see demo cover. This one I did as a test previously. We are now going to upload demo cover 2. I'll go upload new file, and it will prepare that file for upload and upload it to the cloud. There we go. Upload successfully completed. Right at the bottom, I can choose now to open that file in Fusion 360. That would be the easy way. What I'm going to do is confirm the file was uploaded by going to the dataset project. So let's go into Fusion Dataset. I've basically just gone out of the project and back in to ensure that the page has refreshed. And I'll scroll down here to demo cover. There we have my original from earlier on this morning testing, and there we have the new one that I just uploaded. So there's demo cover 2. By selecting that file to view its information on the Teams project, we can see the file name. We can basically view any related data. And here on the right-hand side, we can choose to open in desktop. Now selecting this would launch Fusion and open it up in Fusion. The other method would be to actually go into Fusion. Note I'm getting a message here that the data in the folder has been updated, so we'll refresh. And after the refresh has finished, I'll be able to download or scroll down and find that file. There we go, demo cover. And so that file is now basically accessible from within Fusion or the web browser. What I'm going to do here, just to finish this off, is go to the rotary tool changer in Fusion. This is the file that was imported into Inventor, well, linked, should I say referenced into Inventor. I'm going to open up that file. And once that file is open, we will then insert the Inventor file into this file. One advantage of doing it this way is that all the files are still designed with reference to each other. So when bringing in the demo cover 2, I'll insert that into current design. It shares its position with the Fusion design, so it was designed in place. And this helps out because I can quite easily just ground that once it's in Fusion, or create a in-place or as-built joint so that that part will be joined to this rotary tool changer. You can see there the file has been linked to that Inventor model. We have the geometry loading in the window. We have the ability to move that if needed, but having a look at where it's brought in, as I was saying, this was designed in place, so there's no need to move it. I'll hit OK to accept that. And that rotary tool changer cover is now inserted into our design. And this is the Inventor file. So if anything changes in Inventor, this will then update here. So let's have a look at that. We may look at this and realize in the greater scheme of things, if we open up the main assembly, there is a clash and we need to make a change. We can go back to Inventor. We can make a change to the file. And so what I'm going to do here is adjust the angle I'm going to make that 60 degrees. And let me just add some constraints here to constrain this a little bit better. So I'll make the change. I'm going to make this 70 degrees, so it's quite a bit bigger. And add a dimension to the back here, 60. Finish sketch on that, so that's slightly wider. And let's make one more sort of more obvious change to this and put a nice big hole through the center at the top here. Let's do that. There we go. So that's a more obvious change that we'll be able to notice in Fusion. Okay, so we'll save that file, and what we'll do is we will do the send to Fusion 360 again. I'm going to save the file. Okay. Save there. Continue. Now notice that once this is loaded, Micrographics Fusion Mech Demo Cover 2 is already existing in the project. So it's asking us to upload a new version. So with Fusion 360's versioning, this will upload a version 2 of the file to Fusion, and we can then update our design in Fusion 360. So I'll go close here, go back to Fusion. Notice the data has been updated. I'll hit refresh, and we see here in Fusion basically immediately that the design is now out of date. So we can update that linked design. And we will then see that change in the geometry pulled through on the file. The same updating process works for Inventor as well. If this assembly was updated in Fusion, we'll see that in Inventor. So here we see the new geometry in Fusion. I'm going to go ahead and save this Fusion design. So the rotary tool changer has now been updated with the cover inside. So what we'll see inside of Inventor, if I go back to Inventor and we go to that assembly. And so what we can do here on this design here is we can right click and we can choose to check for update. That will check to see if that file has been updated. Updates available, update now. So we go yes. And this is quite nice because you can update on demand. It means that if somebody is changing designs in Fusion 360, you are not being bombarded by updates every time they save their design changes in Fusion. So we can actually notice there now a little lightning bolt next to the cloud, and we're pulling the updated design through. So the carousel may have been changed from being an 8 tool system to a 10 tool system, or maybe a 6. And this would basically update accordingly. And then we see our update come through with that part brought back in. You'll see I have switched off the visibility of the old demo cover. That is now part of the import from Fusion. Okay, so looking at that bidirectional workflow, working back and forth between Inventor and Fusion, the other idea here basically is that you could take a part in Inventor, just another work case, another workflow here, is you could take a part, you can go ahead and send that to Fusion. I'm going to actually send this to a different project, so I'm going to go ahead and send this to Training 101, upload new file, and we may want to send this part to Fusion for machining. We may want to send it to Fusion for creating renders. I'm going to go ahead and open up that file from the training project. So we'll go back to Fusion. Training 101 project, and there's the Inventor file. So I'll double click on that to open it up. And essentially what this does is it will create a Fusion 360 file and insert that RPT file as a reference. So the Inventor file itself is not converted. We now have an untitled Fusion 360 file with that Inventor file linked into it. And we can now do whatever we need to from here. We can go into our simulation environment, run a stress analysis on this in the cloud. We could go to manufacture environment and create our CAM processing for this. And if this file changes, the Inventor designer can just upload the new version, and the CAM programmer, the CNC programmer, would see that their new version is updated. They would update their design as we saw in the previous example, and then modify any toolpaths or update any toolpaths that were linked to that design. So that would be kind of the other use case scenarios for this. And as you can see, it is quite a seamless process to get the information back and forth between Inventor and Fusion. The one part of the demo that I do just want to add or show to you here is if you go directly to your drive, you can browse and find those files. What I wanted to do here was also drag and drop or copy and paste a assembly file into an existing project so that we can see that Fusion will, or the desktop connector will want to pull that information related to that assembly. So last little demo here before we close off on our summary. So I'm going to take this assembly, upload.iam. Upload refers or has part A and part B in the assembly. So I'm going to take upload, copy it, right click, copy. You can use shortcuts as well. I'm going to go to the existing project and I'm going to go ahead here and paste. I'll just use Control V to paste. The Autodesk Desktop Connector is now asking me to specify a project. So this assembly was created in the F360 project, so I have that project loaded. You can always click on the icon to browse and then choose a new project file. Once you've selected the project file, the Desktop Connector app can then use that project file in its settings to search for components in the related folders for that project. We'll click OK and then we'll start to upload the file. So there's my assembly file called upload.iam, and it will then pick up the related components and upload them too. So there we see part A and part B being uploaded as well. We should now be able to view this online. So here in Chrome, I'm going back to the team. I'll access the Training 101 project. And inside of that project, we can view part A, part B, and upload.iam. So there are the files. Selecting upload.iam will load up the assembly, and here we see those relationships that I spoke about right at the beginning. We can see that this assembly uses part A and part B. And we can then go and view or overview those specific components as well. So there's part A, and part A is used in upload. Okay, so that will bring me to the end of the demo sections. We're going to transition now into our summary for the webinar. And basically, to summarize up the last 50 minutes, we are able to use the interaction between Inventor, Fusion, and the Fusion Teams Hub to be able to expand your team. You can include both Inventor and Fusion licensed users, designers, machine shops, If you have a Fusion 360 Collaborators license for, let's say, management or sales and marketing, they can be included and have access to the data. The whole idea here is to be able to share the data, share data with other users using that team hub and inviting those users to access the data on the team hub. So we get that control access perspective where you can give access to multiple people and adjust the level of access that they have. But over and above this, even if you're just a single designer, you can expand your abilities, leverage the best of both worlds, use Inventor for large machine designs, but then take small components into Fusion, single components into Fusion, and generate your CAM, your work, your machining programs, CNC programs. Use Fusion 360 to import a Inventor subassembly and use that to generatively design a component within that subassembly. Use Fusion for rendering. Use both of the packages for what they are strong at and get more value out of your licenses, especially if you are a product design and manufacturing collection license holder. You've got all those different packages in the collection. Use Inventor, use Fusion, get some value out of that collection. So that'll be it for me. I'm going to open up to questions. You can post your questions up in the chat panel, and I will then answer those questions as needed. Okay, so we don't have any questions that have come through, so I'm going to move on with closing off the webinar. Thank you very much for attending and for your attention through this webinar. As I said, my name is Carl van Rooyen. I'm an application engineer with Micrographics in our Port Elizabeth branch. You can see our email address there, info.pe@mgfx.co.za. And we have 3 other branches, so if you're not based in Port Elizabeth and you prefer dealing with someone closer to you, we have branches in Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban as well. Also, please feel free to check out our other webinars on Vault Professional and Project Sync to be able to sync Vault folders with Fusion 360 and the Fusion Team Hubs, as well as we also did a webinar that went in depth into the actual Team Hub setup, creation, a bit more of the management side of that. And those are all on our Micrographics SA YouTube channel. Once again, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.